Well, it's the beginning of another week. Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live from our news hub at Tadisa Wakanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okanse. Tonight, the Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team presents its report to President John Dramani Mahama, who in turn hands it over to the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine. But the big question on the minds of many is, what next after today? Stay with us. We have a conversation on this. Also, we assess the major moves of President John Dramani Mahama since he assumed office in the light of his 120-day social contract with the Ghanaian people. How far is he from delivering on that mandate? 30 days on. Stay with us. We have a conversation. The validity of the elections of the minority leader, Alexander Penyomarking, as Member of Parliament for the Effutu constituency, has been challenged in court. We hear from lawyers of the petitioners in this matter. Exactly what are they seeking? Some 48 days after that result was declared. Stay with us as always. You're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
President Mahama has ordered the Attorney General to immediately investigate cases contained in volumes of reports submitted to him by the Operations Recover All Loot preparatory team and prosecute all found culpable. Some 2,417 complaints were received, with an estimated value of $1.19 billion to be raked in if fully followed.
I have promptly handed over the reports to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and I give him firm instructions to commence immediate investigations into the cases reported in here with a view to prosecuting anyone found liable for corruption or related offenses. To those who think they can defraud the state and escape justice, let this serve as a strong warning. Ghana is no longer a safe haven for corruption.
The government has received
The 7-member ad hoc committee probing the Appointments Committee chaos has brought its work to an end without the input of the minority. Work of the committee has faced challenges after the minority questioned the impartiality of its chair while demanding a reconstitution of the membership to allow for full participation.
We will present a report, whether minority or no minority, we will present a report. Members of Parliament were here, you've watched the videos, and you can attest the fact that the videos are evident enough to tell us those who were involved. We're not to witch hunt anybody, we're to just identify those who were involved. So we don't need anybody to even tell us. We don't even need public hearing in any case, but just for the world to know that, yes, indeed, we had this meeting, that's why.
Former Greater Accra Regional Minister Nilai Effutu says describing Zanetta Rawlings in very disparaging remarks on the floor of Parliament is in a bad taste, calling on Parliament to expedite action to investigate the matter. The former Member of Parliament for Tong Katamanso was speaking at a press conference in Accra.
Being able to be strong enough and brave and courageous to own up. Everybody is saying he wasn't the one who said it. They are all hiding. But they must come out as a group. I'm calling on the leadership of the minority caucus, Effutu Markins. He should just own up and know who he is, and I've known him for years, and I know the good side of him, and I know the bad side of him. This wouldn't be a problem for him to come out, to say, speak on behalf of the minority group, so that to be on record.
Dozens of people have been injured after gunmen ambushed a commercial bus in Binduri, near Boku, in the Upper East region. The bus moving from Boku to Bolgatanga was under military escort when the gunmen attacked it on the highway near Bazua. The injured, which police sources are yet to put a figure on, have been transported to health centers in Boku as security forces intensify control over the area. Minister for Environment, Science and Technology and MP for Tamale Central, Murtala Mohammed, has vowed to combat illegal mining activities, also known as galamsey, irrespective of political ties or affiliations. In his first official visit to staff of the Environmental Protection Agency, the minister said government is committed to addressing environmental and societal impacts of the menace.
Galamsey is a problem because of the danger it poses to our environment, and then you have a whole ministry and its agencies who are not even participating inside, and that is what we do different. We are going to walk our talk. It doesn't matter who is engaged in galamsey activities, whether you belong to NDC or MPP, as long as the president has given us his absolute authority that deal with those who are violating our laws as far as the sustaining our environment is concerned. And we have to do that. We need to look at alternative sources of livelihood. How can we do that? How do we deepen the sensitization and education?
Health Minister Kwabena Minta Akando says government has put in place districts, regional and national rapid response teams to deal with the cholera outbreak in the country. He said vaccination will start this week to manage the spread of the disease.
Wherever there has been the outbreak, there's a district rapid response team, there's a regional rapid response team, and there's a national rapid response team. So as and when it is detected within a particular area, then the national one, depending on how the levels, the national will also move in to assist them to be able to contain the disease within that particular area. Again, we have worked on vaccines. Fortunately enough, the cholera vaccines, for example, we are looking forward to begin vaccination Thursday, Friday, thereabout.
Oh, it's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, what next? After the Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team has presented their reports to the President, John Dramani Mahama, earlier today. And as you might already be aware, President Mahama, as you see on the screen right now, he's ordered the Attorney General to immediately investigate cases contained in volumes of reports submitted to him by the Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team and prosecute all found culpable. Now, what we do know, this, we're going to run through the numbers shortly, but some 2,417 complaints were received with an estimated value of some $21.19 billion, which could possibly be recovered out of just 36 of the cases so reviewed. Now, I want to just hear exactly what the President, John Dramani Mahama, said when he received this report, and then we'll hear from the chair of this committee as well. But this is what the President said earlier today.
It is with great solemnity and a deep sense of duty that I received this comprehensive report of Operation Recover All the Loot, an initiative that represents an unwavering commitment to the fight against corruption, financial malfeasance, and the misappropriation of public resources. From the onset of my administration, I made it clear that Ghana's resources belong to the people of Ghana and must be used judicially for their collective good. The diversion of public funds for personal gain undermines development, it erodes public trust, and deepens inequality. It is for this reason that Operation Recover All the Loot was launched, to ensure that what had been wrongfully taken from the state is restored to its rightful owners, the Ghanaian people. I therefore wish to commend the members of this team for their dedication and professionalism in carrying out this vital national assignments without compensation, without expectation of any remuneration. The meticulous investigations, legal actions, and asset recoveries reflected in this report are a testament to the seriousness with which this government approaches the issue of accountability and good governance. The findings of this report make for sober reading. They reveal the scale of financial leakages that have cost our nation dearly. Resources that should have been invested in education, healthcare, infrastructure, and social development. But they also offer hope that through our collective efforts, we can reclaim what is ours and deter future acts of economic sabotage. As we receive this report, let me assure the Ghanaian people that the work does not end here. The recommendations of the report will be carefully studied, and where legal action and investigations are warranted, they will be pursued without fear or favor. Every peso recovered will be channeled back into national development, and mechanisms will be strengthened to prevent such losses in the future. I have promptly handed over the report to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and I give him firm instructions to commence immediate investigations into the cases reported in here with a view to prosecuting anyone found liable for corruption or related offenses. To those who think they can defraud the state and escape justice, let this serve as a strong warning. Ghana is no longer a safe haven for corruption. To those who stand for integrity, accountability, and the rule of law, I assure you that this government remains your steadfast partner in building a nation where honesty and hard work are rewarded. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a defining moment in our fight against corruption. We must all play our parts, citizens, civil society, the media, and public officials alike.
Well, so that's President John Dramani Mahama there giving pointers of what the next phase of this Operation Recover All Loot will be. And bear in mind, this was just a preparatory team set up to receive information from the general public. Then, based on the information they receive, or they have received so far, which has been submitted to the president, now that will form the next phase of the recovery of the said loot. But there's a challenge, which we're going to be getting into shortly, with a member of this 5-member oral preparatory team, as to whether the 2,417 petitions and some information that they got, phone calls, is prosecutable, as in whether the information is indeed verified and is enough for them to be able to prosecute, as it were, the Attorney General taking up that prosecution of this information as expected. Or they're going to go through the process of verifying and authenticating the information that they have received so far, because people were just calling them, giving them information that, you know what, there's corruption here and all of that. So what's going to be the next phase? That's the information that we're going to be receiving shortly. Stay with us. But this is what the chair of this 5-member committee, oral preparatory team, is Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister and Member of Parliament for the Northern Constituency, Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa. This is what he said when they presented the report to the president.
So far, we would like to extend our sincerest gratitude to His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama for the opportunity to be of service to our great country. This is service we have rendered pro bono, very sacrificially, but it is one service that we are so proud of, and we are deeply honored that His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama considered us worthy to support him in this endeavor. Operation Recover All Loot, as has been said, was a major anti-corruption plank in the campaign of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. All Ghanaians have been deeply outraged at the levels of corruption and the levels of dissipation of state assets, state resources. And they expect His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to fulfill his campaign mandate of recovering what truly belongs to the Ghanaian people. On the 18th of December 2024, the then President-elect, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, announced this oral preparatory team. The members of the team include the eminent former Auditor General, Mr. Daniel Yaw-Domlevo, COP retired Nathaniel Kofi Boakye, lawyer Martin Kwebu, a private legal practitioner, and Mr. Raymond Archer, the ACE investigative journalist. I was tasked to be their chief servant of the preparatory team. We swung into immediate action. We set up channels of communication consistent with the mandate that the president-elect at the time gave us. So we set up a toll-free line, 0800 900 111. We established a website, www.oralgh.org, an email address, public@oralgh.org. Her Excellency the Vice President was also generous to offer us her conference room as our secretariat. So that served as our secretariat. So we didn't have to pay rent for our meetings. We also want to use this opportunity to thank the young Ghanaians who volunteered.
Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister, that's Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, there and giving details of what they did. Well, the oral preparatory team worked for some 53 days. And these are the highlights as was captured in their report presented earlier today. They received some 44 petitions directly, and 59 cases were reviewed prior to the oral team, as it were, taking shape and what we're seeing today going forward. Now, 230 total number of cases were subjected to detailed review as of the 9th of February, which was just yesterday. Now, already they have started the next phase of the work. 230 of the cases have already been subjected to some detailed review. Now, that's not at all. From what we got to find out as well, the total number of complaints they received was some 2,417, which was in the form of emails they received and some phone calls as well that they received. Emails consisted some 924, and then also that's phone calls, direct phone calls to the toll-free number that you heard Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa put out, some 1,493 calls that they received. Now, this 2,417, all complaints they received, is now going to be subjected to verification and also investigation. Now, it is based on the outcome of the verification and investigation that the Attorney General would then decide which cases or which complaints to pursue or to prosecute, because they must be able to gather information beyond reasonable doubt for them to be able to go to court and not have eggs on their faces as government. So that's going to be the next challenge, because all this 2,417 information, the lawyers who were on this committee, they know that, yes, some of them, they cannot pursue, but then again, it is a challenge that they have picked up, and they're going to have to ensure that they sieve the chaff from the grains and know what next phase will be. But then again, here's what we do know. Already, we got some pointers of some of the cases that were captured in this report, part of the 2,417. Here on Ghana Tonight, some of the members of the oral preparatory team gave us some pointers, an idea of how, or some of the cases they have captured, and which is going to be of interest indeed for the next phase of the oral work going forward. And these are what we do know so far. This is it. And follow me closely. And first off, this particular case, this first one, 25, this banking sector cleanup, 25 billion. This was captured as well by the oral team. It's one that they are looking at quite closely as well. They're going to look at the Auditor General's report and all the areas and the monies lost as captured in the Auditor General's report. They are also going to pay close attention to which monies can be recovered based on the Auditor General's own recommendations over time as well. But apart from the banking sector cleanup, there's private jets that were hired is also another issue they're going to look at. And high on the agenda for the recovery going forward is the $58 million spent on the National Cathedral project. You know, that's we see it, and the current state of the project. We certainly don't know what the future is for this, but then again, there's been commitment that this is one area they're going to look into to recover any amount of the 58 million that can be recovered. So that's also very heavy on the next phase of the oral team, and then also all of this payment of salaries to the Cathedral Board. They're looking at that. $108 million ambulance scandal. It was also heavy on them as well that they're going to look into going forward. It was captured in the report. We see $2.8 million, the Sputnik V vaccine scandal. You recall this $2.8 million Sputnik V vaccine scandal as well is one that was on the radar of the oral preparatory team. And the next phase of it, we're getting strong indication this is one that they're going to look into as well. And then also the COVID expenditure, 21.3 billion COVID expenditure. You recall that the Auditor General, per its own report, indicated that over 60% of this amount was not used directly for COVID-related expenditure. So that's another issue they're going to look into. And then remember, the Frontiers COVID testing issue. During the COVID period, this company was engaged to provide testing services at the Kotoka International Airport, and all the matters that came with it. You recall that the Transport Minister, the Health Minister, both of them were held before Parliament to answer questions. We didn't get much detail of exactly how much had been paid this particular company. We're seeing this amount of $130 million is an issue as well that the next phase of oral, we understand, will be looking into. The Bank of Ghana corporate office is an issue that they also captured, and it's in the report from what we are gathering. $11.9 million payment of abandoned Palugu Dam project. It's also another issue that is going to be of interest, and the single source inflated contracts and some other merged issues that came to the attention of the oral preparatory team. The 250 million Ghana cedis single source and inflated contract, according to the oral preparatory team, to Resource Access Limited. They say that is another recommendation that they made to the Attorney General to look into. And then also the 85 million cedis stadia renovation in the Sipon, Tamale, Accra. There's some documents also attached to it that also they've submitted as part of this report to the Attorney General, and also what is going to form the next phase of the verification and authentication of the information that the oral preparatory team have submitted today to the presidency and onward to the Attorney General. This 13th Africa Games expenditure as well is big on the radar of the oral preparatory team and the report that is submitted today. The SML, you remember, SML case as well, $3 billion they captured as the oral preparatory team. That's also one that we understand is going to be of interest going forward. And also this West Blue matter as well. The West Blue judgment debt settled July 9, 2024. This case as well was captured, and it's going to be of interest going forward. And many others, from what we do know, apart from these documents, plus the calls and direct petitions that they received, 2,417 of them in total. And this is just a fraction of the many cases that we understand going forward would be of interest to the next phase of oral. But we do know as well that this, what I just showed to you, is some of many cases that have been captured in the oral preparatory team's report. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He's a member of this oral preparatory team, is joining us right now on Zoom. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening. Good.
So with the submission of the report today, does that mean your work is done? You've wrapped up your work as a preparatory team?
Yeah, essentially. But we also need a transitional period. We are transitioning, right? So what will happen is that in this transition period, we will continue to receive the petitions because I'm sure you are aware, being a media person, that not everybody would hear this news, even though it's been on most channels this afternoon and evening. So those persons will continue to seek to contact us and will continue to present petitions. So we have to continue to engage those persons until it wanes down. So maybe expect another week or two for the email and the lines to be busy. Then finally they will die off. Yeah.
I see. But then again, the next phase of this oral work, the recovery of the said load, will be the verification and authentication of the 2,417 petitions and phone calls, emails that you received, is it not? That's going to be the other challenge to deal with as you have submitted it to the Attorney General, because you can't just take what you have sent now in the report to court. As a lawyer, you probably know that if you don't verify them and be able to gather information beyond reasonable doubt, you may end up having eggs on your faces, isn't it?
Absolutely. So one word, investigations, full-blown investigations. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The real investigations is actually going to begin now. The Attorney General, Dr. Ayene, is in charge of that. So he's now going to commence full-blown investigations. At the risk of repeating myself, but let's do so. Our mandate was basically to receive the petitions, complaints, tips, cues, leads, etc. And then to gather evidence, or call them information, that is publicly available. The evidence that is readily available, you gather. So I have this favorite example that I give. Let's say if you took the National Cathedral. Yes, we all know that National Cathedral was a huge matter. So you gather all the evidence. You see from day one what Effutu promised, or pledge that will not use state funds. Then from there, you see how it metamorphosed into giving land, and the land is worth millions of dollars. That part of Accra, 1 acre doesn't cost below $2 million. And $2 million easily is like 32 million Ghana cedis. Right? Now multiply by 9-point-something acres that they have. So 32 million Ghana cedis times 9. You see, we are running into several hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis. So what we do is that, so you gather how the story kept changing from authentic sources, news media, TV3, you did stories, other news outlets did same, and then you went on to the 58 million. How about 25 to 30 million of it went to David J, or some say Ajay, right? Mm-hmm. So you gather all of that because, like we keep saying, even the Burj Khalifa, which I don't know if it's still the tallest building in the world, the architect didn't earn more than $5 million. So how come David J is earning 25 to 30 million in this Ghanaian case, right? So you gather all that evidence. So when Dr. Ayene takes it, he and his team, then at least they have the basics, or let's say some aspects of the basics covered. Then they can launch proper investigations into the matter. They will bring in the contractors, go verify from them how much were you paid. Effutu, Baumia, and Oforiatta claim they've paid you X amount. Is it true? Etc. So they are really going to begin the investigations now. Ours was, you can call it, part of it was desktop research and all that, and receiving the petitions.
I see. But then the recovery part, because you mentioned that, yes, this is where the investigation is going to really start, and then the verification of the information that you have received. This is where the real work is going to begin. But then again, there's been recommendation that, are you going to consider for instance, a commission of inquiry, so that those who have been accused or identified as allegedly looting the nation would then be called to testify openly, publicized on television, radio. We all get to see them and hear their side of the issues? Or you're going to recommend that the AG uses the courts to prosecute these cases, but then the hearing of these cases should also be publicized so that the public is carried every step of the way. We get to know what's going on. What will be your recommendation in these two instances?
Well, so personally, I still don't have a clearance to discuss the exact details of the report, so we can discuss generally in terms of my personal experience. Usually they'll tell you that it's good to diversify your approach. You see, when you diversify the approach you have to solving issues, you are likely to, get some better outcomes. Or like they say, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So you don't take all the cases to court. So it tells you that some cases will be suited for a public inquiry, commission of inquiry, Article 278 of the Constitution, those kind of things, where they will sit in public. You remember the Ayawasu West Wagon by-election inquiry. People came and gave evidence in public, so even we got the opportunity to make up our minds even before the report came out. Yes, so it would be good to use a commission of inquiry for some of the cases, and then other cases to court. The reason some people don't want to hear commission of inquiry at all is that, we've been discussing it. You see, the Ghana at 50 judgment, Mafu Sound disease, where he held that once the evidence the state brought to prosecute Reku Brobe and Co. was evidence that Reku Brobe and Co. brought to the Ghana at 50 commission inquiry, it could not be used, right? Yes, that's correct. So meaning that if you can show that after the commission of inquiry, you as a prosecutor and the investigator, you went and independently got some other evidence, good. Okay, or the same evidence, but you can show that independently. It's not what was brought to you at the commission. That's admissible. So because of that, after the decision in the Reku Brobe case, in 2010 or so, we passed a new CI, the constitutional instrument on commissions of inquiry, where we made it clear that, even if somebody comes to a commission to testify, etc., you are allowed to prosecute the person if you can find independent evidence, but not what the person came and gave you at the commission. Because in the Constitution, we have a right, an accused has a right not to incriminate himself. So you cannot deceive the person to come to a commission of inquiry, spill all the beans, and then you take that evidence and go to a criminal court to prosecute that same person. No.
Right.
Then you better find your own evidence. So it's there in the law. So the point we are making is that because of the danger that maybe a judge looking at it will say the evidence you claim you independently gathered is not true. Actually, it looks like that is evidence that the accused gave you when he came before a commission of inquiry. So people don't want to see it at all. They don't want to hear about commissions of inquiry. But as I mentioned earlier, we can't also say take all the cases to court. By all means, you have to diversify the approach. Right. So all I'm talking about is diversification.
I see. But then again, would you also side with those who say that because of the perceived nature of the judiciary as it stands now, an overhaul before these oral cases are presented, or maybe a setting up of special courts to prosecute these oral specific cases would be the way to go?
Well, yes, based on data. You see, when you mentioned that the perception of the judiciary, yes, you show the Afrobarometer and the other opinion polls that have come up. It's shown that the trust in the judiciary is going down. It didn't start today, right? It's been years. Even some of the data from 2012, 2016, then coming in. Yes, but now it's been very steep. Obviously, because Akufo-Addo didn't allow much judicial independence, hounding judges. You remember Bafuboni, get out, resign, and the other things. Even the Chief Justice said it at her vetting, that one thing she needs change in the constitution is that a president should not have disciplinary powers over judges, right? Yeah. So those things. So largely the judiciary has suffered a beating in terms of trust, etc. So I can imagine that, yes, based on it, yes, the president, can negotiate with the Chief Justice. And even Dr. Ayini, as Attorney General, has made it clear that there will be a return to the public tribunals. Those are some specialized courts provided for in the Constitution, where instead of one judge sitting in the High Court, there are three. There is a technically qualified judge, that's lawyer, at least 10 years at the bar and having practiced, so High Court judge, and then 2 lay persons. So they're looking at returning to that system. And apart from the regional tribunal, also there is the community tribunals. Those are provided for under the law. So Dr. Ayini said there will be a visit of those laws to see how to revamp them. So by all means, corruption and corruption-related offenses are said that they involve very powerful people. So those people are going to get very powerful lawyers who would use every trick in the book to get their clients free. So it's good that the Attorney General, Dr. Ayini, is also thinking ahead and trying to see how, in collaboration with the Chief Justice, they will get courts, specialized courts that can deal with these cases quickly.
I appreciate your time, Counsel. And in your own conviction, in 10 seconds, will there be any loot recovered, really, from what you saw?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, please. I presume you've gone through the 10 advantages of the Operation Recover or Loot. We've already saved a lot of bungalows, about 50. Then there are Greek mechanization lands, those lands that were sold for cheap, like toffee, kuli and kose. Those ones, we are taking them back. This is not the first time. In 2009, when Atta Mills came, the Ghana International Hostel lands, where the Minister of Foreign Affairs sits now. Absolutely. They were so cheap. Atta Mills reversed all of those and gave back people's monies to them. So we are imploring JM to do the same. There are Greek mechanization lands opposite Elwak Stadium. They are not going back to those people. And other lands. So we've already even recovered quite a lot. And then the investigation stage and prosecution will bring a lot more.
We'll see how the coming days will look on this, and we're following quite closely on it. Thank you so much, Counsel, for your time. Appreciate you as always.
You're welcome.
Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner, a member of the Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team. They've handed over their report to the President. The President has handed it over to the Attorney General for onward investigation, verification, prosecution. We'll follow it every step of the way here on TV3 and across all media journal platforms. But coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, Minority Leader Alexander Penyumaking's seat is under fire as 2 parliamentary candidates. They're challenging the validity of his election as Member of Parliament for the constituency. But there are a few questions which we're going to be asking of this particular development shortly. But the NDC parliamentary candidate for the Effutu constituency, James Kofi Annan, and independent candidate Louise Abuabing, they've petitioned the Winneba High Court to annul the 2024 parliamentary election results that elected Alexander Penyumaking and retain him as MP for Effutu constituency. They've cited irregularities and bias on the part of the Electoral Commission. Lawyer for the petitioners, Jennifer Morris J, speaks of some irregularities which allegedly affected the outcome of the election. Take a look.
The first petitioner, what the first petitioner is seeking is that there were some anomalies on the day of election, as well as on the pink sheet itself. Some people were not supposed to have even signed for their polling agents. They ended up signing for his polling agents. And we don't know those people from anywhere. And Electoral Commission agents or polling officers were the ones who filled the forms and even got people to sign. And we are talking about 96 pink sheets. We have about 150 polling stations in Winneba over here. And if you have 96 of them, what does it tell you? You get it? So there are a lot of anomalies. And in the case of Louise Abuabing, we are also, so the first one, we are seeking to annul all those pink sheets. And then in the case of the second petitioner, which is Louisa Boaben, we are seeking to, in fact, annul the entire result.
You mean the entire election
The
result?
entire election result of Effutu constituency. Because we believe that the rules of natural justice has been breached. Clearly, the rules of natural justice has been breached. And if you listen to the tape from Honorable Afenyo Markin, and he says that we are going to deal with them, we will ensure that they are punished for this thing. And then the Electoral Commission herself also goes ahead to ignore her in the process. It means that there was a connivance somewhere in order for him to benefit. And so we are saying, we are of the view that the election itself was not validly carried out, and he himself was not validly elected.
So that's the lawyer for the petitioners in this case in the Effutu constituency. But then again, let's go back to look at the exact results that the Electoral Commission declared. And it was a landslide for Alexander Afenyo Markin, really. You look at there, and based on the results, 67% of the valid vote cast was in favor of Alexander Afenyo Markin, some 39,512 of the valid vote cast. In fact, that was an increase and an improvement in his performance in 2020 as against James Kofi Annan, who garnered some 19,383 of the valid vote cast, representing 32.8%. That's a drop, actually, if you juxtapose 2020 to 2024 results. In 2020, he pulled some 18,802, but in percentage terms, it was quite higher. But you understand that in every election, the number of valid voters, eligible voters in constituencies would increase. So that tells the exact percentage analysis as we're looking at it. But I've been joined on the telephone by the lawyer you just heard speaking right there. That's the lawyer for the petitioners in this case, challenging the eligibility of Alexander Afenyo Markin as the MP for Effutu constituency, Jennifer Morris. Jay is a private legal practitioner. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening.
Now, when we look at the results of the election, as I just put there, that declared Alexander Afenyo Markin winner of the Effutu seat, it was a landslide victory, 67% as against your client, 32%. Well, how grave are these anomalies you're complaining about to really have influenced this outcome as we saw it?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers as well. Yes, that is true. There seems to be a landslide in terms of the figures, but you would also understand it from our angle when you see the irregularities, such that you have electoral officers as presiding officers going ahead to fill the form and sign on behalf of polling agents when polling agents have said they are not in favor of those results. And so you wonder how those figures came about, because there are certain figures recorded on the pink sheet, which those figures were not signed by our polling agent. And the law is clear. If a polling agent refuses to sign, there is a reason you have to give, and not to go ahead to sign on behalf of the polling agent. That is the first case that we are going to establish in court. Secondly, we are also of the view that, in fact, when you look at the case of Louisa Boaben, she was totally disregarded and excluded from all the processes, such that even as we all heard, in fact, Louisa at a point, even on the day of election, was behind bars with no reason. Now, here is a lady who was not allowed to present polling agents, yet you had people signing on behalf of her as polling agent. When somebody has not presented a polling agent, why should the person have in front of her signed that there was a polling agent representing her?
I see.
Clearly. Okay. And these are pink sheets we are talking about, in excess of 30 when it comes to that side. And when it comes to the side of the Electoral Commission itself, recording figures on behalf of Honorable Afenyo-Markin, that is in excess of 90. And so these figures you are seeing, these are just figures recorded.
If you say the Electoral Commission, recorded figures for Alexander Afenyo-Markin, what do you mean? That what? The results, the figures did not exist. The EC manufactured those figures and put them on the pink sheet?
Yes, the figures were manufactured because from where we sit, we think that the figures were manufactured because when you have counted results and agents say they are not in support of that result, and some even call for recount, and the EC officers say, no, we are not going to recount at the polling station, and so they also say we are not going to sign. Then the Electoral Commission itself goes ahead to record the figures and sign for those polling agents.
And
what does that tell you?
And all of these anomalies accounted to about 20,000 of votes in favor of Afenyo-Markin. That's going to be a tall order for you to overturn, at least based on the details of the results as we're seeing. A difference of 20,000 between your client and Alexander Afenyo-Markin.
Yes, we have done those calculations, and then if we are to annul those results, the figures you are going to see there are going to change.
I see. That's interesting. But then again, when do you know when the Effutu results was gazetted by the Electoral Commission?
Yes, the gazetting of the results took place, I believe, somewhere on the 29th or 30th of December 2024. That was when the gazette, I believe, happened.
Actually, we checked and it was on the 23rd of December.
23rd, okay, all right.
Good. Now, you do know that based on the details of the Section 18 of the PNDC Law 278, which you're a lawyer, so I know you're very much aware of this. Let's look at, and I just want us to look at the Section 18 of the PNDC Law 284 specifically, and what it says, so that if you agree that the results of the Effutu constituency was gazetted on the 23rd of December, the law per PNDC Law 284, Section 18(1), says an election petition shall be presented within 21 days after the publication date in the Gazette of the result of the election to which it relates, except that a petition questioning an election on an allegation of corrupt practice and specifically alleging a payment of money or other award to have been made by the person whose election is questioned. The bottom line is that it's supposed to have been within 21 days after the gazetting of the results. Between 23rd December 2024 and today, we're talking about some 48 days. So why were you waiting all this while when the law specifically gives you 21 days, which has elapsed, by the way?
No, the process was filed on the 5th of January 2025. That was when the process was filed. In fact, the process was filed on the 6th of January 2025, and we filed a motion of for interlocutory injunction restraining Alexander Afenyo-Markin from portraying or putting himself out as member of parliament. And so today was not the day that we filed the process or the petition. Today was actually a day that we were supposed to have even moved our motion for interlocutory injunction. However, this process of interlocutory injunction was supposed to have even been moved on the 10th of January 2025. But we faced a number of administrative challenges which had to do with the registrar of the High Court, Winneba, failing and deliberately trying as much as possible not to serve the respondents in this matter. That is what has delayed the process. But the process itself was filed as far back as 6th January 2025. And for those misconduct of the registrar, we intend to petition the office of the Chief Justice on those conducts. We have already made that known and that aware to the trial High Court judge on those issues. And so we will file a petition against the conduct of the High Court registrar for deliberately delaying service of the process on especially the first and the second respondent.
We'll see how the coming days will look like on this matter. And, well, because this is in court, we'll see how the court process will proceed from here. But Jennifer Morris Ajay, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. He is a lawyer for James Kofi Annan, who was the NDC parliamentary candidate for the Effutu constituency in the 2024 parliamentary elections. They're challenging the eligibility of Alexander Penyomakin as MP-elect, but we'll see how things play out in the coming days. This is Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break. We'll tell you how the 30 days of President John Mahama really look like. Stay with us.
You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Step up with DSTV and we'll show up by giving you more incredible entertainment.
Going to have a little fun.
Upgrade your subscription between the 13th of January and the 31st of March and get an even higher package for a whole month on us.
Buckle up, here we go.
There's nothing better than putting a little bit in but getting a lot out.
Time to boost some office morale. Incredible!
If you want to build a future, you gotta know what you want.
Step up and we'll show up on your home of entertainment. DSTV.
Welcome back. It's Ghana Tonight. Now, what next really would be for the phase of analysis of the President's 120-day promise. What's your own assessment of President John Mahama's first 30 days so far? We'll look at some of the key promises and also the policies and what he said he was going to do and what has been done so far. Dennis Kwaberi Wedam, Esquire, is with me in the studio. It's good to have you as always, Dennis. What are we seeing in the first 30 days? There was a short documentary earlier today.
Yes.
We saw it on TV3.
This looks like an attempt to account to the people of Ghana on what the president has been up to. Barely 30 days in office.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the key things that came out strongly. And even beyond that, which was put on TV, they also put out a newsletter. The presidency seemed to be very active in giving out information. We just hope that this is sustained, just so the public is able to keep tabs with what is ongoing there. But the key things that have been captured under what the president has said, and in the words of the presidency, they say they are the major actions that have been taken by the president in respect of this. One of them has to do with the constitution of a working team for the presidency, both for the president and the vice president. We have seen this, the appointment of presidential staffers, including advisors for specific areas and key sectors that the president intends to tackle. We have also seen that he has also set in motion the processes for the review of the 1992 Constitution. And in particular reference to this, we know of the Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh's committee, which is supposed to lead this particular process. There's also the point about putting together a planning team to work on the National Economic Dialogue. This committee also being chaired by Dr. Ishmael Yomsen. There's also an announcement of a team to plan the National Forum on Education. This is something that quite a number of people are looking forward to, considering that the free senior high school policy is something which is key on the agenda of this particular government, looking at whether or not there should be reforms, and if there should be reforms, in what aspects, including funding sources and all that. So this particular committee has been put together. to also look into that. That for the presidency is a major move that the president has made already towards achieving his agenda. There's also the mention of...
And that is chaired by the former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast,
yes.
Professor George Odro.
George Odro, yes.
Fantastic.
We also have Kofi Asare on that particular committee.
Absolutely.
Of Africa Education Watch. There's also the commencement of the National Tripartite Committee negotiations with the view to setting the base pay and minimum wage. This is particularly important because of labor agitations. Because if issues of minimum wage and all these things are not handled properly, you are likely to have a whole lot of labor issues. So that conversation has already started with the labor unions also expressing their concerns as to how they want government to progress on this particular matter. There's also the announcement of the Hajj fare, which has been reduced. Now, it appears to be cheaper than it used to be. This has also been done within the 30 days. Now, there's also the commencement of taking actions to implement the 20-day social contract with Ghanaians. You remember that the president put out some 25 key things that he said he was going to do within the first 20 days in office. When you look at some of the things that have been done here, they are pointers to taking off some of those things. And I'll just show you some of the things that were contained in that particular document. So when you look at this, he talks about nominating a complete list of cabinet ministers in the first 14 days. We have seen that executed. In fact, these were to be presented to Parliament for vetting. We've seen them being vetted and then sworn in. There's also the promise that he was going to constitute the leanest and most efficient government under the Fourth Republic. Leanest, yes. We have seen him working within, at least when it comes to the ministerial appointments, within 50 ministers. That we can speak to. But most efficient is somewhat subjective. But yes, that's what the president promised to do within the first 120 days. I mean, this was 90 days. Now, to also establish a robust code of conduct and standard for all government officials. He had spoken about this at the point where he was swearing in some of his ministers, where he asked them to not be arrogant. He gives them pointers as to how to conduct themselves in office. But of course, we have not yet seen the establishment of this particular code of conduct and the standards. But of course, the president has spoken about it. He also makes mention of the holding of the National Education Dialogue to discuss the true state of the National Economic Dialogue to discuss the true state of the economy. So when I mentioned that with what he had done in the 30 days, there are already indicators in what is contained in the 120 days. This is one of the things I was talking about.
That's right.
That he put together a committee to plan this particular dialogue.
Absolutely.
There's also the promise to scrap e-levy, COVID levy, 10% on the bet winnings, and then emissions levy in 90 days. This is something that many are looking forward to because, I mean, there are some who say that these taxes are really nuisance taxes. The president has promised that he will get rid of these in 90 days. We are working within 32, 33 days.
33 days are about.
Yes, so a few more days to go. There's also the promise to review taxes and levies on vehicles and equipment imported for industrial and agricultural purposes in 90 days. This, not much has been seen in this particular respect, but yes, it's contained in this particular promise. And Ghanaians are most definitely going to hold the president on this particular one.
True.
Now also, there was a promise to commence drafting needed legal amendments and prepare for the implementation of the 24-hour economy. We have seen the president appoint an advisor on this particular one, but as to the commencement of the drafting, I am not aware of anything that has been publicly made with respect to this.
Right.
There's also the establishment of the Accelerated Export Development Council to promote exports. As far back as 2024, the president had indicated that if he became president, now he is president, he would personally chair this particular council because it is dear to his heart, because Ghana, we need to increase our exports. There's also the promise to convene a national consultative conference on education. Of course, this committee has been put together to plan this particular conference. It's one of the things that have been done within 30 days. So, Alfred, it's a lot of them, about 25 of them in all.
The implementation of the no academic fee policy.
Yes, we have heard the Minister of Education mention it during his
briefing. Says that those who pay
already,
they should be refunded.
Yes.
So you tick the box for that one?
Not exactly, because that was a question that was put to him at the point of vetting. He only indicated what was in the pipeline.
I see.
But as to the implementation of it, we're yet to see that happen. So I mean, the promise was to implement, but that was just an indication of how it's going to be implemented.
And the next one, that's
yes, free
the disability.
To introduce free tertiary education for persons with disability, the Ghana Medical Care, and then yes. So this, not much has been heard about it in terms of implementation and all that. There's also the commencement of distribution of free sanitary pads for females students in primary and secondary schools. We're also expecting this to happen within the first 120 days. And yes, institute inquiries and forensic audits into major scandals of national interest. All the major scandals you can think of, from the Yapa deal to the National Cathedral to PDS, all of them are contained under this particular one. So yes, within the first 120 days, we're expected to see...
It falls within the remit of oral.
Yes. Right. Also, importantly, seed capital for the Women's Development Bank.
Women's Development Bank.
Yes. So all these things are indicated in there. You know, there are 25 promises that the president says that in the first 120 days, we get that done.
You know what? Because we don't want to rush this process, tomorrow we'll continue recalling the second part of the 120-day promise, and then also telling you the status, what has been done, what is yet to be done, what has not been done at all. So stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. Make a date, same time tomorrow, 10 p.m. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. My name is Effutu.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
This program is rated PG. It